Hi everyone, I'm Zhenya Edelberg. I'm a CTO at the Destiny Lab and also a co-founder of Arcsec Digital. The Destiny Lab, or TDL we call it for short, is a marketing consulting firm, and we streamline and optimize companies' processes while integrating the perfect stack, we call that. We specialize in MarTech, MarOps, change management, and business performance, and provide end-to-end solutions. Well, I'd like to share some recommendations I found useful um, in running distributed or remote teams. We are 100% remote company, and even though not a big team, we are growing and adding people through hiring or through strategic partnerships. What I find useful is to have foundational principles when bringing people on board. I came to this list after managing remote teams for many years and from all kinds of backgrounds and all kinds of time zones. Traditionally, we used to thinking that people should be working together in the same space or office space so managers can communicate quicker, they can relay information in person, but that changed quite rapidly during the pandemic. And and the shift actually helped people to realize that it is possible to accomplish a lot, even remotely. Well, TDL, or the Destiny Lab, crossed 1 million mark, all remote. So just a quick question. How many of you are remote or hybrid or have employees working for you remotely? Or okay, so everyone. Even if you're not thinking about going remote, I guess for your core employees, you may need contractors or freelancers, right, that work for you remotely. So these principles may help you as well. Number one on my list is trust. When we bring people on board, we ensure we can trust that they're able to work independently and carry on with their own tasks without someone looking over their shoulder or constantly checking and asking about their work. Everyone needs to understand that their piece of the project is essential to completion, and we are all doing our part, ensuring that the overall progress is going to happen. So, some people may think that trust is overrated, and employees need guidance, and they need reminders. But I think allowing people to work independently allows them to take pride in their work, take responsibility for their part of the overall collaborative effort, and it gives them a sense of ownership. It makes the team members feel respected and entrusted with work, as opposed to given or imposed. Number two is communication. So practically speaking, we identified our channels of communication. So we separated our communication with clients. So we use email directly speaking, only talking to clients via email. And then we also have Slack for internal communication only. So we identify what works best for our teams, and we use those channels so they're really clear who is doing or where you can find information, when was said, by who, so people don't have to look for different sources of communication. And when the channels of communications are organized, people don't have to spend time, obviously, figuring out where to find things. Number three on my list is project management. So just like communication tools, there's a number of project management tools. And while we use Jira, some teams may find other tools more useful, like, I don't know, Asana, Trello, could be Smart Sheets. Having one place that collects all projects and requests related to services is actually essential to us. And the tools we use are to track timelines, to check priorities, tasks, and things like that. Project managers typically project managers typically oversee the flow, right? And they check on progress. But making the best of our PM tools and to structure our workflow is essentially as efficient as possible is basically what we came to conclusion. And whatever combination of tools and people resources you can identify works best for your industry will help from a management perspective and also help people on your team to work on something independently and in their time zones. Number 4 is processes. We created our own internal processes and blueprints and playbooks to use for work to eliminate inconsistencies with our product or service delivery. When people have clarity on expectations, time needed for execution, and the full picture of the process ahead, they're able to plan their work and time accordingly. Then we don't have to be in the same room to keep reviewing and revisioning something if everything is already set up via process and project management tools. To give you an example, if you have multiple projects going at the same time and you have your only process is as simple as, okay, all the requests are going to come through the email, and then we'll fulfill the request as soon as possible. That process, imagine how scalable is it if you have more projects, more clients, and these clients send you more requests, and then let's say add emergency on top of that. That process is just not going to work. And you also may find that, at this point, your team is pulled in many directions. You'll find that you're feeling overwhelmed and the meetings are needed, more resources are needed, we need more money to spend. And obviously, you may even fall behind on very important tasks or projects. And even though you may think that a small team maybe doesn't need to have a full-blown process for scale, we may find it difficult actually to build it while we're scaling or while we're growing. So to us, it's easier and it's better to build the processes ahead of time so then we're ready for scale. There are no roadmaps or processes that fit all size and all industries, and it's going to be different for each company. While they're not set in stone and will change as the time goes on, building processes for teams early will help scale later. At TDL, we master processes for clients and for ourselves, and we constantly optimize and find ways to increase efficiency on top of consistent high quality delivery. And finally, number 5 is culture. We found that every company has its own set of traits that define the vibe and interaction between people. When there's a clear fit in the culture, then the other 4, trust, communication, project management, process, are a no-brainer. I would say that identifying and bringing people who are aligned with the company's values and culture is imperative to successful team management. Our teams are predominantly entrepreneurial, looking for smart solutions, having openness to learn. And we need people who are able to pivot with the company as MarTech environment is changing quite rapidly. Remote teams are not that different from in-house teams. We're all people trying to do our best, work hard, earn the living. The transition from remote hybrid teams puts additional pressure, as we understand, on companies to retain workforce, as well as understand how adequately measure the output with resource spending. In the recent March Wall Street Journal article, Why Bosses Who Praised Remote Work Sour on Productivity from Home, they mentioned the latest back-to-office push reflects bosses' renewed sense of control, and they're concerned that employees' at-home productivity is falling to unaffordable levels. Just like there is no one-size-fits-all process, there is no one-size-fits-all work environment. We at TDL identified our values and goals while bringing people on board who are aligned with our way of getting things done. At the end of the day, it's a question whether or not your company's goals are achieved, right? And most likely when there is no trust in your people, they will feel pressured and less enthusiastic about the work they need to do. When communication is all over the place and your team members have to tune into email notifications, Slack notification, messages, WhatsApp, Telegram, you name it, they will end up tuning out of all of them. When there's no lead and tools to manage projects, people will be working on tasks of various priorities, and those may not be priorities that you want them to be aligned on. When there's no defined process on how to do things, people will create their own ways of getting things done, whether they're efficient or not. And the management will have a hard time pinpointing what actually went wrong when things do go wrong. In all of this, if the company's culture is not adopted by the team members, remote will only make it worse, in my mind. If it boils down to seeing how well people fit with your company's culture, sometimes it's natural fit. Sometimes it's not, and sometimes it just takes time. I would say that these principles help me to manage our remote teams, and they also work well for some companies that we know use them in one form or another quite successfully. And I hope this also helps you to navigate your distributed teams now and in the future. It surely is a fun journey for us. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. So now the questions.
Questions?
Hello. First of all, thank you so much for this. It was very insightful. My name is Ido. I'm the owner of Palin Analytics, and my question is about the downsides. Can you maybe surface one or a few downsides and how you were able to overcome the fact that it's like working remotely?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the downside, and many would agree, it's, when you need everyone in the same room, maybe do some brainstorming exercise or something, and it can be different time zone for everyone. So it's hard to find time that works for everyone, and then for a few hours, let's say you need to have a scheduled meeting. And when you do it in person, you may have a lot of fun just getting together, maybe very casual. When you do it over Zoom or Slack or something, then it's more formal, right? You just you all focus, you're doing it all at the same time, and it's just there. So it can go both ways, and I think to overcome this, and maybe sounding a little bit like artificial, but finding time with the team when we don't do work stuff. We just talk about each other, we talk about families, we talk about things that are not related to work necessarily. That definitely helps to build relationships and build bonds within a team.
Can you give us an example what worked for you, like a process that worked for you when it comes to like managing deadlines over 5 time zones, for example? Any process that worked for you?
Any process,
Any-
process that worked for us.
Yeah, for you guys, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the processes that I would say has been implemented actually quite recently. It was we had multiple requests coming in, and it was something else I mentioned, from different clients, different projects related. And we didn't really have a very solid process in terms of who is managing what, who is responsible for which part of the project or which part of the ticket and things like that. So implementing the catch-all kind of a solution. So in our case, we used Jira Service for just catching all inbox for all requests. Anything coming in is going there. And then from there, we have a team member who assigns every single ticket and stuff like that. So then, and then it goes into implementation from that point. So some of it is automated, some of it is manual, but overall, it's been working quite well. So. Thank you.
Great, Jinya, it was a great presentation. I'm curious. I mean, since COVID started and everybody moved remotely, has hiring been more of a challenge now because of that? And then you mentioned there's kind of cultural alignment that you need to have with like the employees or the team that you need. Has that been a challenge in this environment just because everybody's remote these days?
As I understand question, in terms of whether or not we had challenges with people aligning with our cultural values, yeah. Yes, I mean, that's why I think I talked about it too, because part of the, I guess, our DNA is having people who are able to work independently. They don't really necessarily need guidance. They don't need to be told what to do. They take responsibility for the work that they are assigned or they're working on. They understand the overall picture. They understand the goals. They're working towards that. So there's never a question at how many hours or at what time from 9 to 5 you're going to be working on this, or you will be, you are full time, so you will have to be designating like 40 hours to us or like 35 or whatever hours to our projects only. There's never question about that. We measure everything by output, right? We measure things when they're done and how well they're done. And for some people, it doesn't work. And we've had people like that. It just didn't work for them. And so they weren't part of our team at the end.
What is it that you guys do in the event that, let's say you hire someone and they're not meeting their deliverables? What do you recommend for that type of employee?
When we find that, so that's why we have goals set up, right? And we have measurable outputs. So some companies use KPIs, some companies use OKRs. So it's all about like how do you measure success, and when it's measured that it's not met on time or the project is not completed or people were constantly putting roadblocks in the completion of overall project, then yes, it's a clear cut, right? It's just you see what's happening. So, and then it's a question of what is it, what is the real problem? Is it because the person needs more training? Is it because the person is just not is not versatile in their in their work, or is it really a culture misfit? So it's something that you would want to identify as a manager, I think. And then once you do that, then it will be easier to make a decision.
Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
What are some of the crucial tools that you use in your everyday business with all your employees?
I would say Slack has been probably one of the most crucial because it's constant communication. It's the messages that you leave for people who are maybe not online at the moment. It's the messages that you or huddles that you can do right away as the team members are online. And yes, and I would say Jira as a project management tool is quite essential to our type of work. We also use Smartsheet for some other management tools and things for our clients as well. So.
So my question is the same as a follow-up from his question. So do you have like a recipe when it comes to hiring those people, right? Because I've not been successful in it. And I'm telling you very fair. So because a lot of people say okay, I'll meet the KPIs, I'll commit on this, we'll commit on this, and we measure them and everything. 3 months down the line, they're all gone. So, do you have like a recipe when you're hiring those people, like, or a recipe to maintain the standards in those things so that I can probably, give it to my HR? Something like that.
Is there a recipe? Um, Angie on my team, she's the CEO of the Destiny Lab. She'll probably have a better answer. I would say for us, when we talk to people who are coming on board, it's really just to see how they how they think about implementation, how they think about what they would, how would they approach problem solving, how would they approach different projects, like from like what would be their priority. It's kind of tricky. Sometimes you don't know, right? The person comes in and they're just, they appear to be very enthusiastic, ready to go, and then when you maybe give them a task, they can't fulfill it, and they can't get it done. They just can't get it done, and that happens. I've had that in my experience too, and then after a while, I think giving people some trial period when you can actually see them in action will probably help you to make decisions long term whether or not they fit. Because I would say for people who do fit, within the first 30 to 60 days, you will see that right away when they fit, roughly.
Anyone else?
Hey, just wanted to know, is there anything special or how do you test for cultural fit on your interviews?
For our cultural fit within a company, we identify values, right? For us, it's entrepreneurial spirit. So if people have, I guess, traits or some kind of skills or something that will show that they do have some kind of entrepreneurial character, that is a plus for us. So we feel like, oh, they probably would be a great fit. Then we also look at how are they solving problems? Are they finding, what kind of solutions are they finding? What has been their proven track record in terms of solutions? And that's what we look at. It's more about how they look at us and then at what we do at our company, as opposed to anything to do with actual, like, traditionally what's understood as culture that is tied to, like, ethnic group or something like that. None of that. Thank you. Thanks so much.
I had one question, but um, what would you recommend to a company that used to be like everything in person, and then pandemic happened? Um, so I'm talking about Archinexus. We moved to remote. So what would you recommend to keep the culture that we had before pandemic, when we used to like see everyone every day, and when HR organizes used to organize like in-person events, but now that everything is remote, what would you recommend to do for teams to start like to continue the relationship between other teams? Because like if they're working in a team, they have like daily meetings and all that stuff, but what would you do to keep the relationship with other teams?
I think it's harder to do it like on a daily basis, right? If you've done it like on a daily basis, then it is going to be hard. But I think if you do it once in a while, like let's say every 3 months or 6 months, however long you decide to meet all in person, and you're able to do that, why not? It's a place to meet. It's a place to build a team, and so on and so forth. Another question, of course, is like when your teams are all spread out all over the world, and yeah, it's going to be very, very difficult to get everyone in the same place. We typically have, when we do have our huddles or team meetings, we talk about, personal like not issues, but things that are just about their personal life. So, just things that are not necessarily work related. And I think that helps to, as I said, build the relationships over time. It's, there are multiple team building exercises and things like that. Yes, maybe they do help for some teams and work environments. For us, I think it's just interpersonal relationships, communication. It just helps overall.
All right, thank you. Um, so, anyone else have a question or comment? No? Okay.
Do you have, maybe I missed this, do you have international employees or just
Yeah. So at the Destiny Lab, we have team members who are mostly here in the U.S. But my other company, Architect Digital, we have team members who are all over the world, like Australia, Europe, Canada, anywhere, you name it.
how have you dealt with there's cultural differences.
Yes.
How do you deal with that?
Cultural differences, yes, there are cultural differences, but I would say, our one of the main principles that I go by is inclusivity. To me, what matters the most is who the person is. I care about them as a person, and that's part of what we do in our culture. We want to build inclusive digital solutions, and that's part of how team members also interact with each other. And during the World Soccer Championship, we had members in Argentina rooting with members from Ukraine. So it's just you find ways to work together as long as you have respect for each other.
All right. Thank you so much, Denia.
Sure. Thank you so much
It was
for
great
giving me the
having
stage.
you.
Thank you.